Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin, and today we're unboxing the Huawei Mate 30 Pro. I am so excited about this. It's taken a while, but I finally got one. This is not an easy phone for me to get my hands on, or it was not an easy phone. Um, you know, I don't want to go too deep into what's going on with Huawei or why it was so hard, but the truth is, it's hard to get a Huawei phone in the United States. That's it. This phone was sold without Google services on it because due to a trade war that's going on, they U.S. companies aren't allowed to do business with Huawei, which I feel is really dumb. That's just my opinion because I think Huawei makes great products, and that's why I am so excited to get my hands on this. It's not just because it's hard to get my hands on. It's because I do legitimately think that Huawei makes great products. And the thing that kind of started this off was I tweeted the other day that no one really talks about the Huawei low light test anymore. That was a thing when they announced the P30 Pro, which is about a year ago now. They showed it taking pictures in the dark, and they showed it, and the picture looked like the lights were on. And the thing is, when a company shows this on stage, companies show lots of stuff that their smartphone cameras can do on stage. Whether they can actually do them is another story. You know what I'm saying? It's like actually replicating what they're showing in real life. It's not always as easy as they make it sound. And then I got the phone, and it was. And I retweeted this old tweet from a year ago where I took this picture with my iPhone XS Max, which is the current iPhone at the time, and the P30 Pro. And the P30 Pro looked like the lights were on in the room. Like the low light was that good, and the lights were off, the shades were closed, and there was just a little bit of light coming in from the window, and that's it. And it's literally like night and day, except it wasn't night and day. It just looked like night and day. Wild stuff. It was like magic. I have never seen a smartphone like that had low light performance better than my freaking eyeballs. It was wild. Okay, so no joke. And the thing that's more wild is that no other company has been able to do that. Other companies have done night mode, like Google. Huawei was really the first to do night mode, and then Google did it later, and then other companies have followed suit. But yeah, Huawei did it before it had this new sensor, which I'll go into the sensor in a bit. But the thing about night mode is that now you're taking a picture that takes like 4 to 6 seconds to take. You have to stand there for 4 to 6. Like, this was instant. It was just snapping a photo in a dark room, and it's wild. So what Huawei did was most sensors are RGB, red, green, blue. They swapped out green for yellow, so they call it RYYB. Now, yellow is a lighter color, lets in more light. They said it lets in 40% more light, and it's incredible. So the P series always focused on the camera. This is the Mate. This is the Mate 30 Pro. Now, it seems like so many Android phone manufacturers do spring flagships and fall flagships. And I feel like Huawei's are the most defined because that P series in the spring is always about camera improvements, and the Mate is kind of about improving everything else. So what's new here? The Kirin 990 chipset. And that's something I'm excited about as well because I like new silicon, and I like testing new silicon. I like seeing how much faster it is than the year before and stuff like that. So it was the 980 last year. Now we've got the 990. Not only is it faster, and obviously there's big AI improvements. Huawei is laser focused on AI. Camera improvements as well. The sensors are the same. The pictures are probably the same as the P30, which, by the way, phenomenal. But video can do 4K 60 frames per second now. This is something that Huawei actually fell behind on at one point because Apple did it first, the iPhone 8 series and the iPhone 10, which came out at the same time. I know it doesn't make sense, but it's true. They were the first to do 4K 60 frames per second video, and then Qualcomm added it the following year in the Snapdragon 845, which meant the Galaxy S, I think, 10, no, 9, Yeah, added it, and then that was the year like the Kirin 970 came and went, the Kirin 980 came and went, and like no 4K 60 support. Now we have it, you know. And the other thing I just want to say about this phone is that it is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful looking phones you're ever going to see. And that's another thing that I really like about Huawei is that they care about design. You know, I feel like, oh man, that is a nice looking phone. I feel like for a while they did this thing where they almost copied Apple. Like they were known as this Apple copying shop. You know, the software was meant to be more iOS-like. I've had Huawei guys kind of tell me that they want it to be more iOS-like, and but this was a while ago. Things have changed, and it's cool that there's a lot of companies that started out kind of mimicking Apple in that way, and then they sort of grew up, and they grew into their own thing. And this is something that started with the P20 really, where they started using these gradient colors. And like the P10, I remember the P10, and you'd look at it, and you'd at first glance you would assume that it's like an iPhone, whatever it was at the time, iPhone 7, you know. And then the P20 came. You had these fancy gradient colors, and it was just a really pretty device. Like, look at this now. You know, look, like if you look at Huawei's phones from a few years ago to what it is now, man, they've come a long way. And there's a gradient here. It's like a light blue to purple, almost like that original. It used to be called Twilight was the color for the original P20. And then of course, you know, in following generations with the Mate 20 and then the P30, and they had all these different colors. And like as far as design goes, like they really surpassed anything that came before it, and really anything else that was on the market. And now, instead of Huawei mimicking Apple, you really have other manufacturers mimicking Huawei, or at least as far as the design chops go. You know, we're seeing other companies doing gradient colors, you know, just stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. They really set a standard there. Okay. All right, we got other stuff in the box. We have a USB Type A charger, which I didn't really see coming. It is a 40-watt USB Type A charger. And it's a US charger, which I love. You know, I'm not complaining about that. Works for me. And then, of course, we have a USB Type A to Type C cable. They had I believe it was a 45-watt charger that shipped with the P30 Pro, but it was an EU charger. So I almost wonder if this is, because I mean, this is a Chinese model. I almost wonder if they swapped out the charger that was in the box to with something that, you know, normally comes with a different product. I might even have that 40-watt charger somewhere. We have a USB Type-C set of headphones. All right, I am not going to use them. I'm going to use Huawei's FreeBuds 3, which are also very good products. Now that looks exactly like Apple's AirPods. You know, like let's be honest. Like if you saw them together, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. But they work great with Huawei products. You know, that's the thing about headphones. Like I feel like we need a standard where we can have these. You know, like it does the same thing where like a Samsung Galaxy Buds or Apple AirPods or OnePlus Bullet Wireless, where if you have that Apple phone or the Samsung phone or the OnePlus phone, it just automatically pairs. If you have the Huawei phone, the FreeBuds pair. You know, I'm also going to be using the Huawei Watch GT2 with this because it's the only smartwatch I have that works. I have many smartwatches, but the problem is there's no Google services on here, so I'm not going to be able to actually use those Android Wear watches. Now we have Huawei Mobile Services, and that's another reason I was able to get my hands on this phone is because I think it took Huawei a little while to go from where they were banned from doing business with U.S. companies and figuring out what they were actually going to do. Where I think in the beginning it was like, okay, we can make phones without Google services for now. We'll sell them in China. And then after a little while, it was like, okay, now we got to figure out a global strategy here because this isn't going away. So what Huawei is actually trying to do is push Huawei Mobile Services global. They're gonna compete with Google Play Services, and you know what? I don't think it's that bad. And I reviewed one of these phones already, the Honor 9X Pro, and my feeling was like, I can live without Google Play Services. I was a Windows Phone reviewer, all right, so don't tell me I need Google services, but you know, I feel like the hardware needs to be good enough to incentivize that. I wouldn't tell anybody like, hey, just just buy a phone without Google Play Services. Why do you need that? Like, you can't just tell someone that. There has to be an incentive to give up the thing that you use. There has to be something better on this side. And that's true of any product. Like with a web browser, with any product, either the thing you're using has to give you a reason to leave, or the thing that you're switching to has to give you a reason to go there. And so that's why the Honor 9X Pro is kind of a mid-range phone. It's a good phone, but there's nothing special about it in the way that I'm going to say, no, you can give up Google Play Services for this. That's why I wanted a Mate 30 Pro, because I do think that there might be something special about it in that way. And so what are you giving up by giving up Google Play Services? Well, Google Apps. The thing is, you have an email client here. You have a calendar client. You could hook your Google, your Gmail and your Google Calendar to that. If you use the Google services, like, obviously there are clients you can use to access those services. There's a web browser on here, So most of it's going to be fine. The things you're going to run into are apps that aren't on Huawei's App Store. So you can sideload those. It is Android. You can sideload apps. You're allowed. It'll be all right. But like, the hardware might actually be good to make this worthwhile. I still think that the P30 Pro is one of the best smartphone cameras I've used overall. It does certain things like it, two things that I care about. Low light performance, which I went over the low light performance. It is mind-blowing. Also, what I care about is lossless zoom. And this is something that other companies like Samsung have been focusing on with the triple lens camera and the 100x space zoom and stuff. But Huawei has been focusing on this as well, and they've been doing a great job of it. They were the first one with that, I want to say P20. Yeah, it was the P20 that had that 40 megapixel sensor, and then had a 3x zoom lens, and you got that 5x hybrid zoom. With the P30, they went for 5x periscope zoom, and then 10x optical zoom. So who knows what the P40 is going to bring. But obviously, the Mate 30 isn't as much about camera improvements as the P series is. So who knows? This should be pretty much the same as the P30 Pro as far as camera photos go. All right, so I just set this up. I restored from backup. I found that on the Honor 9X Pro, you could actually pull down some of those Google Play apps if you back them up first. But we'll see if that works. So, new volume controls. You'll notice that there's no volume rocker on this phone, which is kind of strange, but let's find out what that's all about. Volume control zones are located on the left above the power button. So that would be here. I assume that tap twice. Slide finger to adjust the volume. All right, let's try the right edge. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. That kind of works, although I am, of course, skeptical. This is something that we've seen from HTC. Well, not quite that, but I remember the U12 where they just didn't have any buttons, and what that was, where it was just capacitive buttons that didn't move, and there was supposed to be haptic feedback, and that was not pleasant at all. So let's see how this one is. Now we have that waterfall display, and that you can see that there's no visible bezel at all on the sides. Gives it a really, really stunning look. But by the way, look how stunning the back of that phone is. Man, that's a beautiful phone, I gotta say. So like I said, there's no oh yeah, so it's gonna try and install all these apps that some of them won't work. Google Hangouts it's gonna try to install, which I'd love it if it did work, M Pen Zone. I don't think there's pen support on this phone, but I can always try that at some point. Let's take a look. The camera app. Let's wait and let's see video settings. I am excited to see this. I probably need to be in video. We'll go to video settings, resolution. No, there's frame rate. Yeah, there we go. 60 FPS. We can go to 4K. Wait. 4K 60 FPS. It is there. We can record 4K. That's something that's really bothered me with these. Like it's how I'd prefer to record videos, because you don't have to choose between that high frame rate and that high resolution. So it's always bummed me out that they didn't have it. So they have that weird animation on logos. Facebook does not look like it's going to be an app that works. This is an old backup too, by the way, so there's just some weird stuff that it's pulling down, and we'll wait till it's all done before we actually try to dive into this stuff. But yeah, so here's some Huawei apps down here. AR measure, Baidu. Obviously, this is a Chinese variant, and like I said, they will sell this phone in other places still with no Google services though. So I am gonna live without Google services for a while though, and we'll just see how it goes. And it's probably gonna be fine. We have that notch at the top, which does give us some extra sensors, which is always a good thing if you're gonna have a notch. But yeah, that's the P30 Pro. It does have a power button on the side, by the way, so you don't have to worry about that. But let's see, does this work if I? No, I guess it has to be on from the lock screen. No, maybe not even from the lock screen. So yeah, it looks like you have to have the phone unlocked to control volume, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure that I ever try to control volume when the phone is locked, so it might just be a non-issue. But yeah, it is an OLED display. It does have 256 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM. And of course, I'm really looking forward to that Kirin 990 and running some benchmarks on it and seeing how it stands up to current hardware. It's been out since I guess September or October, and we're on the cusp of seeing the P40 now. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. It does have a camera bump here, which it's an interesting design. I love it, and I love that they put so much thought into it. You might think that this is recessed here, but it's not. It's just smooth. Like it actually looks like this is indented, but it is really just completely flat, and that kind of surprises me. It really just is a camera bump. It's almost like an optical illusion. It's really cool how they did that. I like that. And of course, Leica cameras. So another thing that Huawei sent me is this supercharged wireless charger, 27-watt wireless charging. So Huawei is one of the longer holdouts for wireless charging. I think it was the P30 Pro was the first that had it. Might have been the Mate 20 Pro. But and one of the reasons is because wireless charging has always been so slow. And it's problematic. It makes for a fairly poor experience. So what they did was when they figured out a way to get it fast was when they wanted to start. Now I get the European charger. All right, so maybe I'll use a travel adapter for this. But that was when they decided to start including it on phones. So now we've got 27-watt wireless charging and a 27-watt wireless charger. So that's going to be pretty cool. Can't wait to try it out. Anyway, guys, I'm going to spend a few weeks with the Mate 30 Pro. Might be a little extra because I really want to spend some time trying to live without Google Play services. And I want to just see how, it's easy to live with something that's hard to live with for a day. I want to try to live without it for a couple weeks and just, I've heard people say you just get used to it, and honestly, my predictions right now is that it's fine. It's going to be all right. I've lived without Google services before. None of them are particularly important to me that I can't get through a third-party client. So it's fine. So anyway, guys, stay tuned for that. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.